Joined by Dr. Zeidon Alkinani, who is a Middle East politics lecturer at Georgetown University in Qatar and also a Middle East political analyst, joining us live from Qatar. Dr. Alkinani, with Israel now claiming to have struck in the heart of Tehran while Iran resumes airstrikes on Gulf states, how far do you think the two sides will go?
It really depends on the long-term objective or even the short-term objective of both Israel and the United States. It seems like so far the plans is an airstrike, a military airstrike. And we all know that a military airstrike with no ground invasion is never enough to conduct a significant or a drastic change, such a regime change, particularly in a mid-tier power, regional power, military with significant military capabilities, such as the Islamic Republic of Iran. If we were to divide the potential two objectives that may be on the table today between the United States and Israel towards its military actions against Iran, it either may be that there would be an ultimate goal for a potential regime change relying on the possibility of a strong upheaval or uprising in response to a potential hope of the opposition within the country, given that there might be a decreasing influence and power of the power structures within the state institutions of the Iranian government, or it may be to push the Iranian regime for further economic crises, push it to more pressures in order to get from it more conditions to be followed by it during the negotiations, because it came also as a surprise, given that there were indicators that Iran was willing to accept a lot of the conditions and many of the conditions that were provided by the United States and Israel during the talks, according to many observers who had direct access to many of the associates that were facilitating the talks regionally and internationally. But it seems like they're trying to pressure the Iranian regime as much as possible in order to make the talks following the directions and the hopes of Israel and the United States. But what we're noticing now is that there is a massive overarching regional escalations. You have the GCC neighbors of Iran also fallen victims to this military escalation that is happening in the region. If this war is to end and the Iranian regime in one way or another survives these military strikes and the Islamic regime remains in today's Iran following the assassination of Khamenei, the relationships of Tehran with its GCC neighbors will be very different from how it were prior to this war. It seems like that Iran has forgotten that many of those GCC neighbors played a vital role in advocating for the US or advocating to the United States to not conduct a significant military operation in Iran that would eventually lead to the regional consequences that we're witnessing today.
Right. Speaking on the lines of military capabilities, suicide drones, Tomahawks and other advanced weapons powering the US and Israel struck Iran. What does this level of firepower say about the future of warfare in the region?
It says a lot about the future of warfare in the region. One cannot forget that Iran's military capabilities was not only limited to its technological advancement, although the technological advancement of the Israeli armed forces can be seen much more advanced. When it comes to the US military capabilities, we are talking and recognizing a technological and an armament capability at a global scale. However, this is an attack on a country in its own neighborhood, within its own premises, which means that the rules of law, the rules of war, the rules of war would be in favor of the Iranian strategic mindset. In addition to the military capabilities, where we've noticed that Iran is no longer relying as much as they used to in previous years on the ballistic missiles and conducting and using other weapons, that seems to be prepared for a potential war that is happening in early 2026 and as we're witnessing today. One can also not forget that Iran heavily relies on its regional proxy network, most notably in countries such as Iraq, in Lebanon, previously in Syria. But given the major decreasing influence of a lot of these proxy affiliates to the Islamic Republic, particularly following the major attacks and the targeted focus towards them following the October 7, 2023 political developments that have been taking place in the region since then. It seems like Iran is in this war on its own.
Craziest story from a Hume Band customer. This guy discovered that he was pre-diabetic with perfect fitness.
Regional tensions continue to escalate after Khamenei's death. In the latest, pro-Iran protesters tried to storm U.S. embassy in Pakistan and Iraq. How is this regional war now spiraling over into the street-level mobilization, if I may say, and what does that mean for West Asia?
Well, one cannot forget that the Islamic Republic of Iran represents or is associated with a large portion of Shia Muslims around the world, but also at the same time, many ordinary Shia Muslims, whether in Pakistan or Iran or in Lebanon or in Syria or in Yemen, also do not associate themselves with the concept of Wilayat al-Faqih in Iran. Many of them believe that the Wilayat al-Faqih of Iran is an Iranian political tactic to exploit the hearts and minds of Shia communities across the Islamic world in attempt to create a political rhetoric and mobilize masses in favor of Iran's regional expansionist agendas and attempts for the past few decades since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. However, if we were to focus on the fact that the Islamic Republic of Iran and its former supreme leader did enjoy a significant following and popularity across the region, as we're witnessing now, whether it's the attacks against the U.S. Embassy, the marches against the U.S. premises, both in Pakistan and Iraq, some of the protests that have been taking place in Lebanon. The Islamic Republic of Iran has been able to conduct as we previously mentioned, a regionally proxy institutional, culture, social, and sectarian armed wings and political wings and cultural wings for the past 4 decades, diminishing the Islamic Republic of Iran as a regime and as a regional power will not be completed overnight due to the assassination of its supreme leader. The assassination of Khamenei is definitely a very drastic and significant development. It will definitely conduct surprises that we may not have noticed or expected for it to happen in such a fast-paced way, with the frequency of developments that we've noticed in general since October 7, 2023. But we will be noticing, as many assumed, that it'll take a while for a regime that has been able to build itself for 4 decades to be eliminated or even weakened.
Mr. Alkinani, Iran has now named Ali Reza Arafi, a longtime confidant of Khamenei, to its leadership council. How much continuity does this signal in Iran's strategic posture? Is Arafi seen as a potential next supreme leader?
Well, they have a process where if a supreme leader is to be gone, there will be an alternative with the Council of Experts, with the Guardian Council. There is an entire constitutional process that ensures such a transition of power. They have been prepared for this day since the early stages of developing the current political and religious system. But one cannot deny that there are certain political developments that can signify or reflect the beginning of an end of a current political power or a system. Just as we noticed with the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, who is the commander of the Quds Force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, who was assassinated in a U.S. airstrike in January 2020 in Iraq. His successor was never able to fill his shoes. Similarly to Hassan Nasrallah, the former chairman of Hezbollah in Lebanon, also following his assassination, we never noticed his successor filling his shoes. There is an expectation that the successor following Khamenei will also not be able to fill his shoes, given that the assassination of those leaders presented a major downfall and a major fall and a break to these political systems, organizations, or the regime in Iran's case today.
Right. And finally, before I let you go, in terms of relationships, Putin and North Korea have condemned the killing of Khamenei while Australia has refused to mourn. How does the split in global reactions reflect the broader geopolitical fault?
Well, it seems like in the eyes of many international actors that the United States and Israel have, in one way or another, conducted a unilateral decision with their very small alliance in making such significant strategic decisions in the region. It goes against many of the recommendations and the advices and the efforts by many European allies and international allies, especially as well Russia and China, who have been trying to advocate for continued talks, continued reconciliations, and also in one way or another to limit the possibilities of the United States conducting another Iraq example or another Afghanistan example. But as we previously mentioned, the frequency of the developments that have been taking place since October 7, 2023 has allowed us to witness major political developments in such a short pace of time that we may have not witnessed or even expected to witness within the time frame of 20 years.
Dr. Zeidon Alkinani, thank you for sharing your insights with First Post, and I hope you and your family are safe.